We've got an action-packed series finale of Lower Decks to have a look at. Did it blow your socks off, or did it fall flat? Let's discuss. Well, hey everyone, I'm Nick, and welcome back to the final episode of Star Trek Lower Decks forever. That's it. That's our last episode of Lower Decks, episode 10 of season 5, The New Next Generation. And it's Sci-Finatics' last video for the year as well, so a bit of a Christmas theme for this last review of 2024. And what a big banger this very last episode of the series was. After last week's cameo fest of 5 massive legacy characters appearing in the last episode, our last episode allowed our Cerritos crew to shine, which is what it should do. You kind of look back at previous series finales and stuff where things have gone wrong, like I mentioned in last week's review, where the Enterprise finale didn't quite go really that well because it became a kind of a flashback episode with Riker and Troy. At least this last episode of Lower Decks enabled us to put a spotlight on the Cerritos crew, see them shine, see them at their best, and some pretty good action to wrap up the whole series. Before we get started on the breakdown of this last episode, I think it was a good finale. I think it definitely paid homage and honor to our characters in the show that we've gone on this journey with for 5 different seasons. I think it did a good job of encompassing the journey of season 5 and to do all these little harkbacks to the previous episodes of the season. Every little thing that we'd seen in previous episodes kind of came back in a certain capacity to help with the finale. I know I said in last week's review that I hope that the last episode shines a big light on the Cerritos crew and doesn't become a Enterprise finale part 2. But that being said, considering the 5 massive cameos we got in episode 9, I was really hoping just for like a little moment, like 20 seconds at the end of the episode when they'd solved the whole conundrum, they'd sealed the rifts, because they mentioned the Enterprise at the start of the episode. The Enterprise was on its way to help and everything. I really wish that just that after the Cerritos had done their job and the Enterprise E was parked next to the Cerritos, Picard had been on the view screen and sort of said, "Oh, look, sorry we're a bit late Cerritos, but gee, you guys have done a great job. Your crew has been fantastic. You've managed to save the galaxy. You've sealed the rifts, and you guys are, are part of the Starfleet that we can all be proud of. Great job, everybody." Just to have Picard come in and say that at the end with the Enterprise E, like 20 seconds would have been so good. And I really wish that had happened. But I am glad that at least the finale was all about our Cerritos crew and not about kind of just, shameless cameos and whatnot. The episode starts in Klingon space, where we get to see the Klingons going through some of this reality shifting stuff that's going on. I quite laughed because at one particular moment where everything's changing, the Klingons turn into the Star Trek Discovery season 1 Klingons, and it's like, oh, let's not go there again. No, let's just not pretend that happened. So I thought that was quite fun. I did think initially at the start when Relga came into it and she mentioned the death of her 2 brothers or whatever, I thought, oh, hang on, is this Relga a member of the Duras family? I thought the Duras sisters, maybe this was a Duras cousin or something we hadn't heard of, because obviously Lursa and B'Etor were killed in Star Trek Generations, but I thought, maybe this is a Duras sister or cousin or something. But no, this is just another really pissed off Klingon female that isn't particularly happy with Mark and his brother Malor. Some run-ins and some dealings that they've had in the past. I did think this whole pre-title sequence here with the Klingons being overwhelmed by the energy of the rift and everything was quite reminiscent of Star Trek The Motion Picture, where the Klingons were destroyed by the Vija Cloud energy pulse or whatever that happened at the start of that movie. So I thought there was definitely some similarities there with this opening. We're at the edge of Klingon/Federation space, and we've got Tendi and T'Lyn doing some science stuff together, obviously working together very well with that co-science officer position. And we get a little bit more stuff about Rutherford's implant freaking out. This little moment here is what happened at the end of last week's episode, but we were too busy dealing with our alternate reality version of Will Boimler on the Defiant class ship there. And the pre-title sequence here ends in Boimler's freakout, which happened at the end of the previous episode. This episode did a good job of bringing in all of those guest appearances we had throughout the course of the season, obviously with Klingon Mark ship and his brother Malor. Relga decloaks and attacks him. And we get the various different Starfleet admirals explaining that the Cerritos is the only ship in the vicinity to be able to deal with this crisis that's going on in terms of this multiverse, different universes, different realities, all leeching in and so forth, and the fact that our prime galaxy here is threatened from what happened at the end of the last episode. It's the Cerritos' job to fix. And there's a couple of times here in this conversation with the various admirals that they comment, the Enterprise is en route, it's coming, but you guys are the nearest ship in range, so you're going to have to deal with it. And I really thought this name drop here in this part of the episode meant, ooh, they've name dropped the Enterprise. They've said, ooh, it's on its way. Therefore, normally when you write something in the script to this effect, there's a payoff down the road. So this little name drop here early in the episode led me to believe this means we're going to be getting an Enterprise cameo with Picard in command at the end of the episode. That's what I was led to believe. Didn't happen. I love the fact in engineering when we saw Billups and stuff dealing with all of the engineering issues we had to go on. We had Ensign Ollie, the demigod from earlier in the season, and also our Australian engineering officer Meredith as well helping Billups out. So it's great that we got these characters that we'd seen in previous episodes this season come back to actually benefit and to contribute in this final episode of the series. Mark arrives with his brother Malor, and we find out that Mark had at some point in the past killed Relga's brothers, and she was on a bit of a vendetta to get him. So that's the reason for the gripe with her. More Klingons arrive, and Admiral Freeman is given an order from her husband, but there's something not quite right about the transmission. There's something weird going on, which Ransom cottons onto. There's a big attack sequence here where the Klingons attack the Cerritos. They go through the rift and everything. The Klingons are in pursuit. We've got the Cerritos changing through all the different waves of the realities where they're switching to different classes of starships. We've got versions of the Cerritos where they've only got one nacelle, which is a Freedom class starship, similar to one of the wrecked starships seen at the Battle of Wolf 359, the USS Firebrand. We've got Klingons changing into old-fashioned sail barges. We've even got the whales being asked for their advice and everything. We get a Terran Empire version of the Cerritos. All of these different realities are cycling through. The Klingons don't seem to be changing all that much during this waves of different realities, but I love Ta'ana's explanation in the sense that she says, why aren't the Klingon ships changing? It's like, well, they probably are, but we're just not noticing it because every single Klingon ship just looks like a stupid big giant bird. So I love that kind of explanation because in a way that's kind of true. Like most of the Klingon ships do look pretty similar. We find out that Ransom is the one that hid Malor, and that Relga faked this message with Freeman's husband so that they would hand over the Klingons to her. I love the fact that Ensign Ollie gets to help attack Relga and her Klingon fleet using her lightning attack that we saw in that past episode. That was a bit of fun as well. And we even see the Klingons de-evolve into a Genesis-like version of the Klingons that we saw from that TNG episode in one reality that it shifts to. We get the Cerritos shifting through all these different Starfleet classic designs, from a Sovereign class to an Oberth class, Galaxy class, Miranda class. They're kind of all there. They kind of do all the classics, I think, in all the different variations that the Cerritos shifts to, but then at the end it obviously reverts back to its original California class. Rutherford puts in a bit of engineering expertise there and saves the day, reconfiguring engineering stuff so that it's all settled down and everything. Good on you, Rutherford. And we see duplicating versions of the Cerritos with T'Lyn and Tendi working together as science besties to reconverge the multiverse back into a singular universe. The Cerritos sends the gluonic beam into the rift to close the portal between various different universes. They stabilize the rift, but it's going to be open permanently, which means that there's a kind of a wormhole, a bit like on DS9, that's open to, rather than being open to the Gamma Quadrant, it's a rift that's open to different realities, different universes and so forth. But they need a station to kind of oversee the new rift that's opened up here. And much like DS9, we get good old Starbase 80 come back to protect the rift for future expeditions and so forth to various different other universes and everything. I mentioned before that the Enterprise was name dropped at the start of the episode. It would have been nice to have a well done everybody message from Picard. Well, to add insult to injury, looking at this shot, we not only had the Enterprise E parked right next to the Cerritos at this station here and the wormhole, but also the USS Titan. So it seems like Picard and Riker were there in their ships, and yet no cameo from Jonathan Frakes or Patrick Stewart to wish the Cerritos well done on a fantastic mission achievement. That kind of hurts a little bit. And much like her alternate universe counterpart, Captain Freeman decides to take command of Starbase 80 to oversee the rift to different universes and everything, and her husband comes along as well for the ride. The pair are reunited here on the new Starbase, where we obviously see as well, some of the characters from last episode. Rutherford realizes his implant just isn't quite compatible with the Cerritos system, and he ends up removing it. He rips out the implant, is restored back to normal without any kind of cybernetic enhancements or anything. And there's a little bit of a glimmer there in terms of the Tendi Rutherford romantic feelings department, and you kind of feel like there's some sparks there between the two, and that even though we don't see it in this episode, we kind of get a glimpse that there could be some romance in the future for Tendi and Rutherford. We get a nice homage to all of the Cerritos crew. We see Gucci getting in on some engineering action, along with a return to Earth from that crewman who ascended to a higher plane of existence in an earlier season. A look at the Samuel Clemens holodeck program that more people seem to be using now, and a bunch of girls having a bit of a seance trying to resurrect the Sub-Rosa ghost that Beverly Crusher had in that episode of TNG. With Captain Freeman headed off to Starbase 80 to guard the newly opened interdimensional rift, Commander Ransom is promoted to Captain Ransom. And who is he going to choose for being number one? He chooses Boimler and Mariner to be co-first officers on his ship, and he's going to string them along a bit to see who might be more fit for the job, which I think was a nice touch at the end of this episode. He obviously chooses his go to warp catchphrase, which for a typical gym junkie like Ransom is, his go to warp phrase is engage the core, which works on a fitness and exercising kind of level, but also on an engage and a warp core kind of level as well. So I think that was a kind of an apt go to warp catchphrase for Ransom. All in all, I thought this was a really good finale to Lower Decks. There were no cameos in this episode. I kind of thought our last episode would have at least one big cameo after the 5 massive cameos we got in episode 9. I thought, okay, we're not going to get as big a cameo fest as episode 9, nor do we want as big a cameo fest as episode 9, because then that would take away from our primary cast. But I did hope, because of that Enterprise name drop at the start of the episode, and the fact that we saw the Enterprise and the Titan docked next to the Cerritos at the end of the episode, that we were going to get a Picard coming on the view screen saying, well done Cerritos, you guys did a great job, fantastic, you can all be proud of yourselves, your exemplary Starfleet officers. That's all we needed. That's all I wanted at the end of this episode. I thought that would have just been the cherry on top. But we didn't get it, unfortunately. But yeah, all in all, I think this was a very good finale to Star Trek Lower Decks. A lot of action, a lot of excitement. It paid reference to all the preceding episodes of the season, tied everything together quite nicely. And I think Lower Decks has been a great addition to the Star Trek family. We're probably not going to see any more Lower Decks after this, unless, we get a crossover episode or something popping up in Strange New Worlds or something, but maybe with Tendi and Rutherford this time around, maybe, who knows. That would be great if we could. But it kind of feels like the door has been closed on Star Trek Lower Decks. And it's been a great Star Trek series. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. There's been some great humour, a lot of great references to past Star Trek, and a lot of good storytelling as well. So I think the producers and writers and everything of Lower Decks should be very proud of the last 5 seasons of work that they've done for the show. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think this was the epitome of finales for Lower Decks? Did you enjoy the last episode? Would you have liked to see something else? Or were you absolutely happy with how the whole series was resolved in this last episode of Season 5? Leave your thoughts in the comments section and we'll get chatting about that. Guys, I'll be doing a live stream on the weekend with some other Star Trek based YouTube channels. Sean from Trek Culture will be on. Be sure to come by and check that out and see what we're all talking about. It'll be the last few episodes of Lower Deck. So the last kind of 3 episodes or so we'll be kind of talking about in detail everybody's impressions on that. So come by and check out the live stream on the weekend. I hope everybody has an absolute fantastic Christmas and holiday season. All the very best to you and your family. Thanks everybody so much for your viewership and everything in 2024. I hope you've liked all of my content that I've been producing this year. And obviously we've got some great content coming up in 2025 with Section 31 and Strange New Worlds Season 3 and everything that's coming up in 2025. So stay tuned for that. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Check out the merch store. Plenty of cool t-shirts like this one that are Star Trek themed you can check out. Plenty of cool designs. Hoodies, mugs, caps, t-shirts, stickers, you name it, it's all there. Great prices. Check them out. Help support the channel. And pick up something, for Christmas or for New Year's, for a loved one or yourself. Thanks so much for everybody for watching. Have a great Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. All the very best.